It's really where we talk about things that we're just trying to figure out. What's up, y'all? It's your girl, Cameron, and I'm back with another episode of this podcast, hashtag JTFIO, or just trying to figure it out. If you're new here, please make sure you subscribe or follow this podcast on whatever podcast app you are listening to so that you are notified whenever I drop a new episode and so that you become a part of the fam bam, okay? And also, if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to my channel and comment as we go on this episode. I want to thank you all for joining. We're going to go ahead and get started because I have homework that I'm going to be responsible and do, okay? Um, yeah, well, first things first, happy new year. The podcast fam. I have not seen you guys in 2024 yet. So happy new year. Welcome. You made it. We're here. If you're on the podcast, not if you're on the podcast, if you're on my YouTube channel, I guess I haven't seen you either. So happy new year to all of y'all. Happy new year to the fam. Happy new year to the squad. Super excited about the new year, but I'm not going to lie. It's already draining me. Went back to work this week and already drained, just getting back in the flow of things. I slept a lot during my winter break. And, 2024 just came in like with some lessons that I was not trying to learn already. Like, I am a Scorpio, so I do black or I do white. Okay. I do left or I do right. I don't do this gray area or middle area very well. And a lot of things so far have been causing me to have to think about this but consider that and weigh my options and ill. I don't like it. I don't like it. Pineapples. Okay. So yeah, a lot of things have been happening concerning a few guys, a few things, right? Unless you've been under the heaviest of rocks. Cat Williams' interview just shook the internet because he sat there for 3 hours and just laid it all on the line, just let us know everything and talked about every Tom, Dick, and Harry under the sun. Okay. So yeah, of course, you guys know I always like to pull some of the celebrity news and some of the things that are going on that's outward facing and bring it on back home with some things that we can learn or things that we can discuss that affect us in our daily lives, right? So y'all know the last episode we discussed Jonathan Majors, and a few of you had things to say in the comments. Very little comments for my videos, but the videos did the episode did do very well as it pertains to my normal numbers, right? So shout out to all you guys for watching. Just like I thought, there were things said that caused me to think all the time, right? And since then, his Good Morning America interview has come out, and it's got a lot of us questioning why did he do this interview, right? So yeah, there's a few things that he said that I want to get on here and discuss. Obviously, Cat Williams said, Jonathan Majors got up there and he knew who to call. He knew to call Megan to have his back in the courtroom because as Black women, that's what we do. We pull up and we have the Black man's back. And he even Jonathan referred to her as his Coretta in the interview. Everybody's waiting on him to say what he's going to say about her because y'all know, if you ever been a part of a situationship, you're always wondering, like, what are we? What are we? You want to see what he's going to say out in front of everyone, right? So now he doesn't say it's my girl, right? He says, she really held me down. She was my Coretta. So let me tell you why we have a problem with this, right? Number one, what is the connotation of Coretta? What does he mean by Coretta? Okay. We can go back to things that he's referenced that help us to understand what he means by this, right? When he was talking to Jabari, which is wild for a white woman, but okay. Talking to Jabari, he tells her, he's lecturing her. She's crying or she's drunk. She's recording him and he's saying, like, you're not sticking to the plan. Okay, you out here drunk. I am a great man. I am a great man, and you out here making me look crazy. And you was supposed to be my Coretta, you. And then he goes, Dr. King's wife. Dr. King's wife, Coretta Scott King. You need to be more like her. Barack Obama. You need to be more like Michelle Obama. Okay, because you're messing up the plan. You're supposed to stand by me as a great man. Okay. So then, even if we were confused about the connotation with that, we bring it on to this Good Morning America interview where he says that Megan held him down. She was his Coretta. Okay. So that means that Jonathan looks at Coretta Scott King as someone who was just the ride or die, someone who just held things down, made sure things were great, made sure things were good to go, and held up this great man. Okay. Couple problems with that. Although this may be true, it's only a small fraction of who she is and what she does, right? We see this a lot with different couples. Okay. And I hate to say it, but different Black couples. Okay. Where the man has this narrative in his head about the woman who's this ride or die chick, and she's taken all these things and she's sacrificed and she's gone through all this hurt and this pain for the betterment and for the sustainment of the marriage, to get the prize, to get the goal, to be a part of the team, to hold down this great man. Because that's what she's supposed to do. That's why I called Megan when I'm going through this court case, because she's going to come through and she's going to hold me down in my pain. But when I'm on top, then I want a Black woman in. I'm not saying, but I'm just saying. Okay. So the problem with that, is obviously Coretta Scott was so much more. Coretta Scott King was so much more. And now I always say Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. is one of my favorite people in history, because to me, it is amazing that somebody could fight so hard for equality and fight so hard for, wanting us to be considered equal, and, going to jail and participating in marches and protests and giving speeches and wanting us to, fight peacefully. It's a lot like me. I'm very like peaceful to a fault. Okay. So I always, and also growing up, like it seemed like I always had to do a paper or a research project on him. So he is somebody who's like ingrained in me, right? But I remember when I got a little older, and I lived an hour from Atlanta, went to high school an hour from Atlanta, and I think on a field trip, because I went a couple times, but we went to see, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s like museum, and his house and his church, and like learned about all of that. And I was still amazed, and I was just like, man, this woman, his wife, like she had all these kids and she was holding it down. And then as I started getting into like my late 20s, I started thinking, okay, like, yeah, he was this great man, so did he ever cheat? Did he ever cheat on his wife? Did he ever make her? Did she always feel, or did she always know that I married a great man? Did she always understand the impact of who he was and what he was doing, right? And I think I started to think about this the more like I grew in relationships, because I started wondering, like, okay, we all look at him as this thing, right? But for her, did she feel the same way? And then what caused her to stay? What, what kind of woman was she? I don't know. Because just because somebody is a great man, like Jonathan Nelson, no, that's the gospel singer, Jonathan Majors, tell it. He's a great man. Just because that's the case, you still are at home with this person. You witness them. You deal with their dirty laundry. You deal with the mother-in-law. You deal with the things, right? And of course, a public figure, you're not going to talk mess about, and that's like definitely like an old school trope of what happens in this house stays in this house. So we'll probably never really know, right? But I made this joke where I was talking to my sister recently, and I was just like, Coretta Scott King, she ain't like belly laughing in a lot of pictures. She don't look like extremely joyous, like she was just out living her life. Okay. But I think that she made a choice early on. And I'm not saying that she was suffering or that she didn't want to do what she did, right? But I do start to question, I do start to wonder about like the different types of women that we are when you think about marriage, when you think about relationships, when you think about just longevity with a man. Hey, stop. So let me just back up a little bit, right? When he calls her his Coretta, you think about the benefit that he has thinking about, I got making good on my arms, but she's always been like this sex symbol, this, one of those top black actresses that we look at that's, beautiful, aging backwards. And, she's been in all the movies that we seen growing up. And, she's been acting all this time. So she's a very coveted woman. Like a lot of men want her, women want her. And, you know, like she's that girl. So, to see her in the courtroom, hey, hey, come here. Come here. Stop. Come here. Sit. Stop it. To see her in the courtroom, with the eyes like sitting there with him, walking hand in hand with him every day into the courtroom, it's like, okay, I see how this is working for him in his favor. How is this helping you and your image? Maybe she doesn't care. But then you start to question, and then you start to see like how much as black women we will put ourselves and all that we've worked for essentially in harm's way for a man. Okay. Now I don't know how long they've known each other prior to all of this, but this altercation happened with him and Jabari in March. I mean, he was being tried by like July, August, and Megan Good was on his arm. So it hadn't even gone by, like, it wasn't long enough to be in the courtroom with him, you know? Maybe silently supporting, maybe sending a text message the morning of, like all of these things. But to show up and make appearances, I mean, she know how this go. She been in the game, she been in the business for a long time. So that means she's making a conscious choice. A conscious choice, right? And to me, I'm not gonna knock nobody for their choices. Her choices are her choices. But it does cause me to want to have a conversation and just ask some questions because these are things that I'm just trying to figure out, right? Um, you start to question, and this has been a question that I even asked my friend recently. Like, mhm, are we trying to be on the pick me side of things? At all costs, I want a man. At all costs, I want a husband. Everything is for the betterment, the sustainment of the family unit. The goal is to get married. The goal is to have the children. Are we trying to do that? Or are you trying to be your happiest and healthiest? Now, sure, granted, if you can do both, do it, right? But it seems like at some point, the woman is getting the short end of the stick because she's choosing to sustain and be there because the prize, the overall goal is the man and the marriage, not her happiness, not healthy communication, not fidelity, not monogamy, not, yeah, monogamy. Yeah. Like it's that I'm going to do all I can while I can so that I can keep this man. And we see it time and time again, right? It's this conversation like with Cardi B, right? I saw a video on my channel from like 3 or 4 years ago where we were talking about Cardi B and Offset breaking up. And I remember going off in this video about how, she deserves better and good for her. Like, yeah, the only thing is like she has these kids and that's the only thing with when you have children with somebody, it's like now you're tied to them forever. But good for her. She's getting out. She's doing what needs to be done. She don't have to stay with him just because she's married, blah, 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 because he had publicly embarrassed her. That was 3, 4 years ago. And we're still talking about the same thing. So the way that she looks in the public is clownish, right? It looks like, oh girl, like you taking this man back after he's done you wrong a number of times, a crazy amount of times. But at home, that's her husband. At home, she took vows. At home, that's the father of her children. At home, it's probably way easier to just take him back. Okay. My friend and I were discussing, like, unfortunately, as women, we're just known to take them back because it is just easier. People make mistakes, you move forward. But if the shoe was on the other foot, would the man be as willing to take the woman back? So yeah, I don't think Coretta Scott King is a pick me, but I do think that her priority was the marriage. Her priority was, raising the children. Her priority was, standing solid in her position as that, as her husband is out on the road and doing the things. And she also was a lot of other things, right? We cannot deduce her down to being a ride or die chick for her man. Not people in history. No, we cannot do that, right? But if we were to talk about somebody like her 50 years later, talk about right now, obviously Michelle Obama is very different in the way that, we've read her book, we've heard things from her that let us know that she's not just a ride or die chick, stand by my man, my man, my man. Right? Yes, she has that side, but she also is very clear about her and her own agenda and the things that she wants to do for herself and her goals and her own education and her own initiatives. Okay. So the only reason why we don't know those things about Coretta Scott King is because we didn't have those avenues back then. It was a different time. Okay. So when he says that, the reason why I get a fire in my spirit is because of that point. Yes, that point. What are you saying about Coretta Scott King? Oh, you want her to be like a woman who stands by your side, but through mess. Because if you guys research, as great of a man, and I'm not ever going to take nothing away from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., I just told y'all he's one of my favorite people in history. He was cheating. He was cheating on her. Right? And I remember the first time I found that out, I was just like, no. And then when I found out about Jay-Z cheating on Beyonce, I was like, no. And I was like, well, I mean, I guess they probably all cheating then. They probably all are. And then you start to question, well, when you're with someone for 50 plus years, are we to expect that no one ever stepped out? And then is stepping out the worst thing? You talked to me crazy. You didn't pay bills or something. You didn't. You left me hanging financially. You let our stuff go under. You weren't a good parent. You were, verbally abusive. You made me do all of the things in the household. You had all these expectations on me as a man to just pay for everything. And I was secretly, silently suffering. Like all the things that we learn of our elders that they dealt with in marriages that don't really talk about, right? Stepping out isn't the worst thing in the world. And yes, a lot of people have come back from it, but you just start to wonder. Because yeah, if you're going to be with somebody for 30 plus years, 50 plus years, are you really saying that you're going to love that person forever enough to not ever make any mistakes? No, I don't think we're saying that. So then it just causes you to look at things differently and wonder, like, yeah, we're being painted an image that is unrealistic. I think, though, what you would hope is that honesty remains. Conversations are continued to be had. Yes? Yes. Okay. So I got so many notes, and the notes are just everywhere. When Cat Williams said, thank God for Megan Good, like she stepped in and she saved the day, I thought about how, I mean, she really did. But then it caused us, like I said, to look at her like, okay, girl, like you going through this divorce. with Devon Franklin, and he did a lot of caping for her and her image, like in the church. And then even with their divorce, they did it very like solemnly and very peacefully and friendly. Like, yeah, we're still friends. We have a lot of love for each other, but we are just not working out. Okay. To now go to this guy who very clearly has some things going on. And it's like, why even associate yourself with that? I was listening to Kimberly Foster. She's the founder of For Harriet, and she was saying, I think the comment that she made was, "Do you not think more of yourself, or do you not want more of yourself?" And it triggered something in me because I've had these conversations with my friends where it's like, yeah, like you may allow certain things to happen because you're forgiving or you want to give someone a second chance, or you're trying to be understanding of where they're coming from because you understand that we're all humans and we all make mistakes, right? But those people who don't allow people to just come back or don't allow people to keep making mistakes or playing with their name, it's like their answer and their reasoning is, I think, more of myself to allow a person to continue to play with me like that, right? So I think that's kind of the shocking part. It's like Megan Good, like she's like up here for us, right? This longevity in the acting game. And to deduce it down to, you standing by this man's side in a domestic abuse case, in the courthouse, wanting to be his Coretta. And she hasn't come out and said anything. So she just letting the narrative just be painted of whatever it is, right? And it's like, does she have a movie coming out, a book coming out, a conference, women's conference or something coming out? Like, why are you doing this? Why? Why? I don't know. And the same thing with like Simone Biles, right? We had we said, maybe Simone is insecure, or she's letting this man say this stuff about her, and she's sitting there smiling like, yeah, we talked about that side. And then she came out and said, y'all want me to be insecure so bad. So sis, like, we gonna let you rock. Like, if you really don't feel no type of ways about this and you're totally fine, like I said, it's their world, baby. If they are fine with all this, let them be fine with it. But we're gonna have these conversations because I start to just wonder, like, I'm really interested in like how we work as a people. As Black women, we are nurturing, we are ride or die, we are have your back, we are, the tough chick, the strong chick, the reasonable chick, the understanding chick. Still got to look good, still got to be smart, but don't be ghetto, but be classy, but rock your own hair, but don't let it be too nappy. Don't let it be too dry. Don't let it be too coarse. Okay, if you're gonna wear a weave, you're gonna wear a wig. Don't let it look like a weave or a wig. Not too many colors. That's too that don't complement with your skin tone, because then it might be ghetto. Nails can't be too long. Not too popping. Not too much popping of the gum. Not too, like, so many rules. You got to be this, but 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 this. All for the man. So yeah, it irked me to think, oh yeah, like she my Coretta. She been being my Coretta. The comment wasn't, through this very hard time, like, that's been my girl. And she did not have to step up and be there for me. And I understand. Like, he didn't even take the time or the chance to like make it be known. Like, yeah, baby, it's putting a lot on the line for me. I'm losing stuff from Disney. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I'm wondering like what road we're headed down as a people. Because I'm telling y'all, it's not just about Megan and Jonathan. This theme is reoccurring for me where I'm starting to question and wonder, okay, if you're choosing marriage and you're choosing to be with someone, I remember thinking as a wife, there's a very clear mantra that you are subscribing to. There's a very clear, like, okay, as a wife, I'm going to think, talk, feel, move like this because we are now a unit and everything that we're doing is about a partnership and I'm supporting this person's going to support me. We are moving as one. Hey, stop. Even when you're moving as one and the other is not, but you have to trust that they are. You have to trust that they have the best intentions and they're always considering the team. And then when you find out they're not, you feel betrayed because you're like, man, I really like dumb myself down in some ways. I slowed myself down to ensure I could move with this unit, and you betrayed that. So now here it is. I got to now go pick myself back up and but not be bitter, but be understanding. Oh, that's the word. But be understanding, empathetic, sympathetic, but not apathetic to now be able to move forward and be ready again for another relationship. Yeah, that blows my mind. It blows my mind because I'm like, we wouldn't be here if there wasn't a sense of inequity, if there wasn't a sense of lack of truth, lack of communication, lack of presence, we wouldn't be here. It wouldn't even be a topic. But now that it is, you're wondering why I'm questioning all of these things. It's strange to me because the type of person I am, I don't really get rah rah because I feel like there's so many other things to get rah rah about. Okay. So tell me what it is, allow me to accept it or unaccept it, and let's move forward. I think my issue here is we're accepting of so much that others would not be accepting of for us. And that makes me sad. That makes me sad because I don't think that it's going to change for like another 50 years. I think we're moving to a better place, but we're definitely not. The state of the world right now is not, the majority is not this whole independent thinker as a woman and this whole like, yes, I'm going to be married, but you know, it's a partnership, which means you're only as good as what you have going on, not what I can do for you and all for one and no get back. It is transactional. It is a business, right? It is like, okay, when you're down, I'm going to hold us up and vice versa. Or just don't ever be down. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. But yes, that's in the vows, right? So I, my questions are like, how much do we tolerate? Right? Because no, every woman is not this whole like show up just like degreed up and financially savvy and like no, like I had to have that conversation too recently. Like while his flaws may be fidelity or being honest or communication or finances or whatever they are, you know, yours as the woman may be things that are more covert and then maybe he's patient with it. Maybe he stays around, he waits on he is considerate through those things and caring through those things and understanding through those things. But I'm just saying in all examples I'm seeing in a lot of these news stories and different shows that we watch, the woman always comes up short. My favorite show, Insecure, Issa cheated, right? So it wasn't even like, I really love that show. But Issa cheated and, Lawrence found out, and this is like Lawrence is on his walk back to, getting things together. And he cheated. So Lawrence is, laying on the couch. He can't get a job. He's been working at Best Buy. Like he's just really down on himself. He's not doing what he wants to do. Okay. No, this is not an insecure review, but I'm going somewhere with this. And Issa cheats with like an old fling, right? And it's it's dangerous because she doesn't just cheat just to like get some. She cheats because he is giving her what she needs emotionally. She's not getting attention from her person at home. She's not feeling, a spark. She's not. And he's sparking something not only, in her like relationship wise or romantically, he's sparking something in her to do something about her job and her career field and, all those things that her man of all these years wasn't doing. So when Lawrence finally starts to get his confidence and do all the things, he comes, ready to talk to her and excited about like what he's doing, but she's already cheated. Her attention's already elsewhere. Okay. That blow up that they had where he's just so hurt, he's so betrayed. I really felt for him because I'm like, yeah, like she's wrong for cheating. Why didn't she just communicate with him? Um, but one thing that I started to see as I watched the episode and as I thought about it as if these are real people and not actors. Um, Issa loved him so much, and she had so much going on with self that she was trying to discover that she wasn't brave enough to break it off. She wasn't brave enough to break up the comfortability of him being there or the comfortability of knowing that at least I know he'll always be there. At least I know what he has to offer, right? But the excitement, the unknown, the bravery that it takes to try something new, that was Daniel. Okay. So years later, or seasons later, episodes later, when they, have this conversation, they're dating again, they get back together, and they end up together in the end. Spoiler alert, maybe. Um, the conversation then becomes, if Issa never would have cheated and would have stuck it out um with Lawrence, she would have had to go through this slump. And she wasn't even the wife. She wasn't even the wife. Okay. Now, like the elders tell us, at least be the wife, right? She would have had to go through this slump of him not knowing, him not, him not feeling motivated, all these things. And when he finally came out, would she have been who she became if she would have stayed in that? Would she have become this person who really tapped into who she was trying to be, really let her creativity drive, really went out there and took things on, right? Got her own place, was working as the the I always say maintenance man, but like y'all know what I'm saying. Working as the person, right? Would she have done all of those things? No, because she would have been with him. They would have still been in the same apartment. He would have gone out. He would have been doing what he was doing, exciting, exciting. And then she would have still ran into her rut because she needed something to pull her out of it. Now, yes, everything happens for a reason. Okay. But in the end, her prize is now I'm going to help raise this child that's not mine with this man that I've made it back to who I've always loved, but we've gone our separate ways. We've learned, we've grown, we've done all these things, and now we're back together. So the conversation then becomes, did the ends justify the means? Okay. Yes, we did all these things, all these toxic things, all these horrible things, and I was lost. I couldn't find myself in all these things, but they contributed to my story. They helped me get where I needed to get, and now we're together. Or should she have stayed and supported her man and stood by her man and been his Coretta? That's my question. And yes, that's just the show. But we have to know when to cut it. You have to know when a job has become so toxic that now it's affecting your mental health, your mental well being, to where now you're a ticking time bomb at your job because you're so frustrated and upset about being there, right? It's the same thing with relationships. You're holding on for the sake of saying that you held on. But to what? For what? Who is it helping? Right? Who is it helping? So no, I don't think that it's just wrong to be a ride or die chick, quote unquote. I mean, that's your life. That's what you want to do. Do it. I just think that in 2024, we gotta not be so black or white on it, right? It can't just be that you're super independent woman, feminist, like would never ever do for no man. I'm telling you, I'm learning, right? That's not gonna work either. But also, you can't just be all doting wife, pick me energy, just give it all, everything to the man and be his whole everything. Because then what about you? What about you? So, yeah, I want to know your thoughts. I want to know how much do we tolerate, right? I want to know what are your thoughts on Megan Good? Like, she's letting her story be painted for her narrative be painted for her. And not so much making good, but this type of stature as it pertains to the positioning by the black man. Okay, because if that was his wife, would we feel the same way? Right? And two, like, we expect the wife to do these type of things. That's my man. I'm gonna stick beside him. Right? But to what end? To what point are you like, yeah, no, mm-mm, mm-mm. Yeah. I want to know your thoughts. I'm Kim Ray, obviously. This podcast is called Just Trying to Figure It Out. And we really are just trying to figure it out because, as I'm out here in this dating world, I'm really like I don't even know. I know I'm learning more of who I am and what I feel and what I like, what I don't like, my preferences in a person. And I'm learning that I really value, honesty. And I'm not really big on like emotion. I won't tie emotion too much to like just keep it real. Just keep it real. And then let me decide like, yeah, I'm not really effing with that. Or like, you know what? Like, really? I'm kind of on that same thing. And I was waiting on you to say something. Right? But honesty is like a really big thing to me. But then stability, I didn't realize how big it is to me. But stability is a really big thing because yeah, if you can't hold yourself up, I can't. I'm not about to. It's hard. That's hard work. I got two dogs to take care of. Like, come on, right? But if you can hold yourself up and then I can hold myself up, that's already going to help me because I don't have to reach back. Now, if you need the help at any point, of course, I'm your girl. And it should be vice versa, right? Or gifts or things that you desire or things that you want to do for your person, you should be able to do, but not out of necessity, frequently, consistently. My God, my Lord, my Lord, right? So let me know your thoughts, comment down below. Make sure you subscribe and follow this podcast. It seems to be a series. Seems to be a series as these men are cutting up and they are in the news. And I'm just starting to wonder. There's no way this is a promo for hetero relationships. There's no way. I'm dissuaded. I don't want it. I don't want it. Can't do it. Anyway, my phone is blowing up. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.